Okay, so this video is probably just going to be a long video of me reading through some of this and asking a bunch of very stupid basic questions. So this is more for those of you who are familiar with this controller. This is the 2.7 Rev C universal Tesla coil driver. So if you're familiar with this and you know how to answer my questions, I'd greatly appreciate any feedback. I know a few of you have already left some ideas and suggestions on the previous couple of videos, and I appreciate that. I've looked at those. I've tried a couple of those. We'll get to those here in a second. But first off, this whole Tesla coil project, has probably made me feel more stupider than any other project I've ever done. I am way out of my knowledge zone, way out of my comfort level with this. When I first started this Tesla coil project, I just thought I could build it from the schematics, plug it in and run it and be done, and it would work. Because I could follow a schematic, I can build a circuit. So I thought. Apparently I knew nothing about high voltage and high frequency circuits. So I knew nothing about ground planes and back loops and phase. I knew nothing about inductance or coils. This is all new to me and over my head. I am learning a lot. I'm learning, but I'm still not even close to being at the point where I understand how to tune the phase lead. So anyways, back to this. Now I did email Lone Oceans Laboratories, and I told them, I don't know, whoever they are, that I have a bunch of questions. I'm waiting for them to reply back so I can ask them these questions. I might just forward them this video, maybe. I don't know. So anyways, back to this. So as some of you may know, one of my previous viewers sent me one of these for free, and he was helping me. He was emailing back and forth, answering questions, and then he stopped. So like I said in a previous video, I hope he's okay. But he probably just got tired of me and ran out of patience and just gave up on me, which is understandable. So anyways, if we flip through this, and this is just, I just downloaded this right from Lone Oceans Laboratories, right from their website. And I went through this, and there's information about the controller, and I understand pretty much everything. Well, I understand a lot of it. I get the gist of a lot of it. There's one major part of here I just don't get. It's like some stuff they explained very, very clearly, and I got it and I could do it. But the one thing I really need to know, it was just very, very vague, and I'm just not getting it. So let's go to that. So again, this is all just explaining the unit, showing pictures of it, showing the basic connections and setup. I understand all of that. We got some schematics for it. But if we go to so here it has testing. It's testing of it, where you're connecting an oscilloscope and a function generator, and you're looking for the square wave coming out of the unit. That worked. I did this months ago. This all worked. I got no issues here. This is fine. And then he gives a bunch of screenshots of the scope for testing the gate drive transformer output. He's connected it through some stuff. This I kind of get. I didn't even really try a lot of this because I'm kind of assuming it's okay. So this part here I'm kind of assuming is okay. Where I have most of my questions, and let me zoom into here. Oh, and right here with the undervoltage, this is all about setting up the undervoltage. I've got that set. I'm happy with this. I'm good with that. I had no problems there. Again, where I'm running into problems is right here. Tuning the phase lead. And let me see if I can get this to focus any better. This is where 99.9% of my questions are, is tuning the phase lead. It says, phase lead can be adjusted by choosing the appropriate adjustable inductor. and then finally tuning that. Now, the guy who sent me the controller, as I said, he and I were emailing back and forth, and I told him, what kind and size of Tesla coil I was building. And he recommended the correct inductor. He said you should probably use this size inductor and then fine tune it from there. So I have the inductor installed that he recommended. And, right now off the top of my head, I don't remember. Hold on. It's one of these. I don't remember the size he told me. Like that one's, man, I can't read that. Like this says it's a 393. I don't remember the size he told me, but I installed the one that he recommended, and I was going to fine tune from there. So anyways, I have that installed, and it says, this is the way I usually tune my coils for phase lead. It says, first determine the general operating frequency of your Drsstc. Well, that's my first question. How do you know the general operating frequency of your Drsstc? I didn't see anything on the schematics, the plans I got. The only thing I can find on the plans I bought talks about the resonating frequency of your primary and secondary. But I don't think that's what they're talking about. Again, like I said, I'm sure a lot of my questions are really basic and stupid, but I honestly don't understand. But it says first determine the general operating frequency of your Drsstc. I don't know what that is. It says in the example shown in the scope shots, I'm running my Drsstc at about 380 kilohertz. And again, it says he's running it at that. Is that what he has his interrupter set at? Or his function generator? I don't know how you run it at a set frequency. It says run your Drsstc without the secondary coil in place. Now, I understand that. That I understand. I get that. He says he usually has a metal object as a load, like a chunk of metal, or usually people use a coffee can with water in it. So I understand that. That's about the only thing I understand that, is running it with your secondary removed and just a dummy load installed. I understand that. So I guess my first question is, what do they mean by first determine the general operating frequency of your Drsstc? Second question is, how do you run it at a frequency that you want? Is that coming from your function generator, or is that coming from your basic interrupter? It's got to be one of those two, right? And it says, next, power your Drsstc as usual. What do they mean by as usual? Is that different from what he's doing here? Surely that's not with a secondary back installed. But with a lower bus voltage. Now I have a variac, so I can turn my bus voltage down. I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. Plugging in a variac and cranking it down to like 60 volts instead of 110. And he said it says if desired. Note to take scope measurements. You should isolate your entire drive circuit. How do you isolate your entire drive circuit? Now, the guy that was helping me before said what that means is when you connect your scope, to not connect your scope to ground, you want to use two leads set up in a math function. So like one lead is reading half the voltage, the other lead is reading half the voltage. I saw on not my oscilloscope, I'm borrowing it from work. I saw a math function on the oscilloscope where I could use two probes and add those voltages together. But again, I don't fully understand if that's what he means. And where it says you should isolate your entire drive circuit. I have no clue how to do that. This is very important. In the example above, I'm running my bridge on about 170 volts. So again, that's about half voltage, I'm thinking, using the variac. I mean, that's 170 volts across your main capacitors. because when I plug into full power, I'm reading about 300 volts. So I'm assuming he means that's 170 volts across these main capacitors. It says the blue trace shows the collector to emitter voltage on one side of the bridge, showing the output of the bridge with no phase lead. I have no idea what that means. It says this can be set by the jumper beside the tunable inductor. So I know there's a jumper next to that inductor, but what position should that jumper be in? He doesn't explain what to do with that jumper. And he hasn't said, well, I mean, maybe he did, but he didn't say like very specifically, clearly, like where he's putting the leads of the oscilloscope. Now, I know it says collector shows the collector emitter voltage. So if we take a look at this, they're using, sorry, get this in view here. They're using this IGBT, where it's kind of like two IGBTs paired together. So is he just going from, is he just connecting his meter from C1 to E2? Is that what he's doing? Just across that capacitor? So am I connecting my oscilloscope from C1 to E2? I guess that's another question. Is that where I'm connecting my oscilloscope? Which would be across the two big capacitors here, which is where I was measuring, you know, that's where I was measuring my, my 300 volts. So that would be across that C1 to E2. So is that where I'm connecting the scope probes or probe? Like, am I putting the ground of one probe here and the power of that same probe here? Or am I putting the power of one probe here and the power of the other probe here and not connecting the grounds? Or connecting those grounds to ground? That's what I'm not getting. I don't know exactly how to connect the probes. Because one thing for sure, I don't want to blow this oscilloscope. It's my works oscilloscope. It's not a cheap one. It's not a super expensive one, but I don't want to have to pay for it. So I feel like I need to be told very specifically step by step. Like, take channel 1 probe and connect here. Take channel 2 probe and connect here. Take the grounds of those probes and I don't know where to put them. Don't connect them, put them to the ground of the unit. I don't know. I need to be told very specifically, step by step, where to put those probes. And I'm assuming that's where he's putting them, but I don't want to do this on an assumption and fry my works oscilloscope. So again, that's the blue trace that he shows up here. And I know that's not going to, well, it kind of shows, but not really. So that's the blue trace from collector to emitter. But again, I don't know what he means by isolate the entire drive circuit. I don't understand that. And again, if any of you are going to put comments telling me, please explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Assume I don't know anything. and that's a safe assumption. Like I said, this paragraph is making me feel really, really stupid. And I know once it's explained to me and I figure it out, or once I get it, I'm going to be like, oh, duh, well, that's stupid. But yeah, just pretend I'm a stupid 5-year-old who knows absolutely nothing and try to, like, step by step. I feel like that's what I need, because I have read this paragraph like 100 times, and every time I read it, I get more and more confused. All right, so moving on. So he's doing that with no phase lead. That can be set by the jumper. Again, please explain that. Where do I put the jumper? And it says, note the huge spikes during the transition are greater than 100 volts. These can kill IGBTs. Since IGBTs are extremely sensitive to over voltage, I kind of understand that, but isn't this connected? Isn't the unit connected to the IGBTs at this point? Why isn't it killing them? If it can kill them, why is it not killing them? Maybe, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know what to do with that information. And it's very difficult to get rid of those spikes, even with a low inductance layout. Yeah, so the next page, I then tried a few different inductors. Again, hopefully I have the right one already, and I don't have to change those that much. And adjusted the phase lead while looking at the scope. As you move closer to the sweet spot, you will notice that the spikes dropping in amplitude all the way until they suddenly disappear. See, I get that. You turn the inductor until those high voltage spikes disappear. That makes sense. That's the sweet spot of the coil, and you're now tuned appropriately. And then he has a lot more information down here that, he's talking about zero voltage crossing. I don't know if I need to know that. So I guess basically I need to know exactly how and where to connect the scope, what's connected, what's not connected. Like, I'm assuming the secondary is removed, right? So just confirm that the secondary is removed. I'm running it with the basic interrupter. I'm just pushing the button on the basic interrupter, not using this function generator. I mean, am I supposed to be using a function generator when I'm adjusting this, or am I using the basic interrupter when I'm adjusting this? So again, if you can answer any or all of those questions, I would be very grateful. So basically, just to keep track of all of my questions, question 1 is where it says determine your general operating frequency. General, just going to write this down, determine general operating frequency. So that's question 1. And my handwriting has not improved any since the 4th grade, so, don't make fun of me. Question 1, determine general operating frequency. What's that mean? How do I do that? Because that's the first thing he says to do. Second question. He says he's running it. He says he's running his at about 380 kilohertz. So his second question is, what is meant by run it at whatever frequency? Is that with the interrupter? Is that with the interrupter? Or a function generator? All right, so is that with the interrupter or a function generator? And question 3, where and how where to connect Oscilloscope probes. And I need exactly. If you say just put it across your gate drive, or just put it, I don't mean to be difficult. I really don't mean to sound stupid, but I need to know exactly where do I put those probes for the oscilloscope. If I was correct of just putting the probes across C1 and E2, which is across the main capacitors, again, I don't know exactly how. Is that 2 probes set up in a math function? Or is that 1 probe with a ground here and a power here? And if it's the 2 probes in math function, I'm assuming 1 probe here and 1 probe here. If that's the case, do I connect the grounds? Leave the grounds unconnected? What do I do with the grounds? So again, I need that. I need all that information under question 3, where to connect the probes. Question 4. Is there a question 4? There might not be a question 4. Okay, so 3 questions. I think 3 questions. Oh, yeah, there was another one. Right here. where he's checking it with no phase lead. No phase lead. That's set with the jumper. Basically, I need to know what position. Jumper position. So I guess that's what I need to know. So again, and this is painful for me to make this video because it really makes me feel stupid. I'm just getting frustrated because I feel like I should be able to read this and understand it, and I don't. You know, it's like when he talks about how to set under voltage, he's very clear and very specific, and I understood it. When he's talking about setting the overcurrent protection, that was almost as clear, and I understood it. When he's talking, and when he talked about just testing it with a function generator and the oscilloscope, just looking for the basic square wave, that was very clear, and I understood it. But as soon as he starts talking about that, tuning phase lead, I'm just like completely lost. So again, any of you familiar with that 2.7 Rev C universal controller from Lone Oceans Laboratories, please assume I'm stupid. Well, that's not a far stretch of an assumption. I need like very specific step-by-step, and I would greatly appreciate. And again, like I said, some of you have already given me a lot of good information, but it's still not quite there. And I am very appreciative of anything you give me. Now, somebody in a previous video told me, suggested, because in the last video you saw me try to run it and it just made a noise but didn't actually arc. And a couple of you said that it's probably arcing, it's just too bright out and you can't see it, so to try it at night, which I'll do later. But one of you also suggested moving the jumpers right here. There was a couple of jumpers. They said to move those, and I tried that. I just tried that maybe, right before I started this video. And that, when I did that, the thing didn't do anything. I pushed the button, no noise at all, nothing. So I put those jumpers back. So it was a good try, a good suggestion, but that didn't do anything. Which kind of makes me wonder if the jumper here is in the wrong position. The jumper that's next to the inductor, where the instructions said that gets rid of the phase lead or whatever. Maybe that jumper's in the wrong spot. I don't know if I want to play with that until I know exactly if that's a bad thing to try with it running or not. So I guess you could maybe mention that too. So anyways, sorry for the long, boring, drawn-out, stupid question-filled video. But that's where I'm at. And like I said, thank you advance for putting up with me, for those of you who haven't given up on me, for being patient with me. But we'll get there eventually, I hope. So anyways, until next time, thanks for watching.